Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone to June's Twin Cities Immigration Forum, co-hosted by the City of Minneapolis, Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, and the City of St. Paul Immigrant and Refugee Program. My name is Michelle Ribeiro. I'm with the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs to the City of Minneapolis, and I'll turn it to my counterpart, Edmundo.
Hi, I'm Edmundo Lijo, Assistant City Attorney with the City of St. Paul, and I run the Immigrant and Refugee Affairs program for the city. Back to Michelle.
Super, thank you. So June is an incredibly busy month. In June, we celebrate Immigrant Heritage Month, American Heritage Month, 18th, World Refugee Day, and Pride. These are all opportunities to recognize and celebrate our various cultural communities and the impact, resiliency, and histories of our various cultural communities. So we will be starting today's Twin Cities Immigration Forum with an overview of some events that are taking place, and we'll also invite some of our participants to share information about themselves and their work in recognition of these important occasions. But first, just a bit of an overview with regard to the purpose of these monthly forums. This is a monthly meeting that's co-hosted by the City of Minneapolis and City of St. Paul Immigrant and Refugee programs and offices to address topics of interest and concern to immigrant and refugee residents and individuals and organizations that serve our immigrant and refugee community. These monthly forums originated as a way to unpack federal immigration policies, programs, actions, and news, and have really expanded to include discussions on a variety of topics touching Minnesota residents with community and government speakers and updates. And so with that, I'd like to turn to our first agenda item, which is a calendar of events taking place this month. And we'll invite people to share information that they have. I do want to share, first of all, this Saturday, the City of Minneapolis is hosting the Community Connections Conference, which is an all-day event on Saturday, June 10th. Starting, you can register as early as 8 o'clock in the morning. And it is a free conference. There will be food, entertainment, and workshops on a variety of different subjects, including renters' rights. There will be a citizenship and immigration fair. There's a workshop on how to apply to work for the City of Minneapolis. There'll also be a workshop in the afternoon on the new driver's license for all law that takes effect on October 1st. This law enables individuals, regardless of immigration status, to apply for a driver's license or a state ID in the state of Minnesota. There will be many exhibitors and lots more information. I will put the link to the conference in the chat, and there are materials including an overview and registration information available, and instructional videos about the conference in multiple languages. So invite you all to participate this Saturday from 8 o'clock to 3. There is a lot of entertainment also for children, fun stuff for kids. So please do reach out if you have any questions about the event. Also wanted to invite others to, if you have updates that you'd like to share or recognitions that are taking place, feel free to share your update while I plug this information into the chat. And Edmundo, if there are other things that you'd like to add from our list of events to share, please do.
Sure, I'll just add a couple. First, St. Paul Pride Festival will be taking place this Saturday, June 10th, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Rice Park in downtown St. Paul, and we'll put a link to more information in our notes as well. A third annual Desi Pride event is also taking place on June 17th. It's a SIWA sponsored event. Then June 14th in Minnesota, family celebration will be taking place on Saturday, June 17th from 12 to 4 at Allianz Field in St. Paul. And we'll have more links for more information on these events. And then there is also on Saturday evening, June 17th, the 2023 NAACP St. Paul Roy Wilkins Freedom Fund Gala. Morris, the organization here in St. Paul, Moore is funding a fun run event for refugees on June 27th. And again, we'll put more information in our notes in the chat on these events. If there's anyone else who would like to announce and let us know about their events this month in celebration of any of the recognitions Michelle mentioned, feel free to do so.
Yep, I'm also, I just want to also share this Sunday, Twin Cities World Refugee Day hosted by Cappy. Will take place from noon to 5. And I know Cappy has come on a previous Twin Cities Immigration Forum also, putting a little bit of information into the chat about that. Did somebody want to share an update? Please feel free to if you did.
Yes.
Miguel, please go ahead. Was that you? I thought I heard someone. Edmundo, would you mind also sharing the information about the play? I think that Vina asked us if we could share that piece of information.
Immigrant Law Center and the Advocates for Human Rights are sponsoring a play, I believe in honor of Immigrant Heritage Month. It's called The Courtroom. It's a reenactment of one woman's deportation proceedings. It's being held at the Jungle Theater here in St. Paul. But it is also being performed at Hamline University for the first part of the month. So from, I believe, June 1st through June 11th, the play will be performed at Hamline University. And from the 13th of June through July 2nd, it will be performed at the Jungle Theater on Lyndale Avenue in St. Paul. I'm sorry, in Minneapolis. Information is available on the jungletheater.org website, or you can call 612-822-7063 to purchase tickets. You just need to make sure you check your tickets to know which location you've purchased tickets for based on the date. So we will put more information about the play in our notes in chat as well.
Yep, and I just wanted to share because I just got a message from Vina Iyer at Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota indicating that the ILCM night on June 23rd offers discounted tickets. So tickets are discounted to $20 in case you may be interested in attending that evening. And so as we're plugging all of this information into the chat, if I could turn it over to some of our guest speakers to share information that they have, if I could start with Pamela Mercado Micheli.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So I'll share a little bit of background about myself in celebration of Caribbean Heritage Month. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. My father is Dominican and my mother is from Argentina. I have a beautiful 6-year-old daughter, and I graduated from my master's in advocacy and political leadership from Metro State. I'm currently a project supervisor with the Minneapolis Police Department. Small world, I believe I worked in the past with Edmundo in St. Paul City Attorney's Office. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yes, likewise. And I was inspired to write Daniela and Mateo, which are 2 different books that celebrate different cultures. One celebrates the Puerto Rican culture, the other one Argentina, because I wanted my daughter and other children to have the opportunity to embrace and use their native Spanish language, and that something that wasn't just translated to Spanish, but was originally written in Spanish. So that was my initial inspiration to write the book. And then I hope to continue celebrating culture through literature and celebrating language through literature. I've had the opportunity to collaborate and partner with various libraries within the Twin Cities and also um, other cities in Minnesota, schools, hospitals, which I'm very grateful for. And I hope to continue to do that as well. And I invite everyone, if you're interested in learning more about Daniela and Mateo viajan a Puerto Rico or Argentina, to follow us on Instagram as that simple, Daniela y Mateo, or visit our website, danielaimateo.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pamela. If you'd like to put
Gracias,
that into
Michelle.
the chat, yep, that would be wonderful. Gracias.
Thank you, Pamela. I want to say hi real quick, but I also want to mention that the first event when I worked for the city attorney's office, my first event, tabling event, was at World Refugee Day in 2019. You joined me, and we actually joined Michelle, who was actually tabling, and she let the St. Paul City Attorney's Office table with her, and so it's kind of a reunion for the three of us.
Yes, it is. Nice to see both of you.
It was good to see you. Thank you for coming.
So if we could turn it to Samba next. Thank you, Samba.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Samba Fall. I am an immigrant from West Africa, Senegal. I've been in the Hennepin County area for the last 23 years. A very great place, extremely blessed. Married, have several children, about 39 of them, I believe. So Minnesota is good for me. I am the founder of the Senegalese American Chamber of Commerce. I graduated from the University of Minnesota. I recently been involved a lot with immigration, which as an immigrant, the last 23 years, I've gone through many, many hoops, finding myself around the city of Minneapolis, the Twin Cities metro area. I last year ran for Maple Grove City Council because there were no representation for the 23.7% BIPOC community in Maple Grove. So representation as it matters, I step up to run for office, and today became the first Senegalese immigrant U.S. politician. Out of my private firm, Dunia Languages, in which for the last 20 years, I've been servicing languages, most importantly in French and Wolof. I found myself giving back to the community that gives me pretty much everything I can break for today. I founded the New American Center Professional Association, me and an attorney in immigration, to help out with the influx of immigrants that are coming through the border, some of which are being deported because I'm in court all the time assisting the judges. So I really am very glad and grateful to be around here. Most importantly, I'm really looking forward to learn more, as I can bluntly and openly say it. So I'm glad that it's recorded that I will be stealing most of your ideas to make immigration go smooth for a lot of the West Africans coming through the border. This June, we'll be celebrating Juneteenth in Maple Grove with the Rotary Club. It is free of charge. We will do it at the Fish Lake Regional Park. And it would be to just embrace culture. As an immigrant from West Africa, race was not really a concern for me, but keeping my culture, as Mercado just said, is very, very important. So thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to learning a lot from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Samba. And Dr. Saida, if you wouldn't mind going next, please, and sharing. I know you have wonderful, important information to share with the group.
Thank you so much, and it's wonderful to be among immigrants and refugees and people whose experiences I share as a refugee from Somalia, but also who are giving back to our communities. And in Somali culture, we have a saying that you can only be satisfied when thirsty by drinking from your own hands. And so in sense, seeing all the refugee and immigrants providers and community leaders, it's we are drinking from our own hands. We're serving our own community. So glad. My name is Saida Abdi. I am an assistant professor in the School of Social Work. Some of you know me. More importantly, I'm actually, which is why I'm here today, I'm part of the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. I'm on the steering committee, and its center is nationally that are funded by SAMHSA to really attend to the psychological needs of children and families. And today I wanted to share a document, so I'm going to try to put it in the chat because, as you know, this thing is not my thing. Like, okay, Microsoft and me, we're not that friends, but hopefully this will work. Yeah, it worked. So I want to share this document called Dialogue, and it's actually a dialogue around community violence and targeted violence, and how communities are impacted, specifically our communities are impacted by mass violence and community violence, and how specifically immigrant and refugee community members who came here with trauma, who may be escaping war, who are traumatized in the borders and traumatized in the neighborhoods in which they live here, when they face community violence or mass violence, how that can really impact them differently. Because research shows that people who have already had trauma are more, their health is more impacted by ongoing trauma. So as a group, as providers, as a state and as a cities, St. Paul and also Minneapolis, we really do have to think about this. This document is a planning document. It's a document that looks at, talks to people across from first responders to community members to researchers. And what it's saying is does your community understand the impact of community violence and mass violence on people and in your community members, and the role a community can play both in prevention and in healing. And so what is your plan? And I think as a group, this is a dialogue we need to have as well. So I'm sharing that document. I hope everyone reads it. There's one chapter that's about healing. How do we heal people? What do communities do? What is a healing community in the context of acts of violence? And also, how do we access resource? How do we, there is a document I co-authored that I can share by email that actually is focused on this, but specifically on communication. How do we communicate information when there is events, when there are disasters in our communities? How do we make sure we're communicating with immigrant and refugee communities who may not speak English? How do we tailor messages? And so I hope we can have this, we can also adapt to this and do a dialogue as a community, as the offices that both Michelle and Edmunda lead, and as the community members who do the work. Are we prepared? Are we doing what we need to do to help our communities stay safe? And also, if something happens, to actually be ready to step in and support them. Thank you for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saeed. I really appreciate what you've shared. Thank you, everyone. If you would like to share your contact information or ways to connect to learn more, please do feel free to put the information into the chat, and we will send it out along with notes from today's meeting, and also invite people to pull information from the chat regarding things that may be happening soon or information that people have shared that you'd like to act on right away. And I'll turn it to Edmundo right now.
First, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Abdi. It's so good to see you again. It's been too long, and I'm always thankful for the information you present and the content you bring to the forum, but not only to the forum, but you're always sending us, and really appreciate your work and always thankful for what you send. So thank you very much. Good to see you. Quickly, the last
Can I just say, great to see you, and thank you. You and Michelle have been amazing in welcoming me and actually letting me reach the community, because you are sort of my conduit when I send those things. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Good to see you. Okay. Next, very quickly, I will put in the chat. We have David Pegg and a group of speakers who are going to talk about deferred action for people who are going through process, labor and employment law processing. And I just want to put in the chat, the Department of Homeland Security did post another update on this program, on this deferred action program, and we'll put that in the chat as well. And with that, I think we'll move on to the next section of the agenda, which is going to be jobs updates. We will also post, there are several positions that are available. There's a investigator wage theft position available at the AG's office. There are jobs in Minneapolis and St. Paul and the state, and we will post those in the chat in our notes for people who are interested in looking at what's available as far as employment. The University of Minnesota is also hiring a part-time community liaison, and we'll post that position also in our chat. I guess next, Michelle, would be our immigration updates.
Yep.
Do you want to touch on that a little bit? Sure.
Sure. So one thing that we really wanted to highlight, both Edmundo and I, again, in recognition of Immigrant Heritage Month, Caribbean American Heritage Month, and World Refugee Day, is the wealth of information that we have about the contributions of our immigrant and refugee community members right here in the Twin Cities area. So we will share some reports, some research that came out in 2020, 2021, and 2022, and really invite the audience to read and share this wonderfully in-depth reporting on our immigrant and refugee population in the Twin Cities area, including demographic information, economic contributions, and so much more. So please do take a moment to review these reports. There's also, issued by the American Immigration Council, a new, very dynamic map of immigration impact, which breaks down the contributions of immigrants as workers, business owners, taxpayers, and neighbors, including extensive contributions to community. So also very fascinating information and dynamic, national in scope, and you can drill down to local communities. There's also a new assessment of the asylum backlog prepared by TRAC, an entity that's affiliated, well, a project that is part of a Syracuse University project. So we'll also share some information about that so you can learn and hopefully come back with questions. If there are things that you'd like us to bring to future forums that are sparked by you reading these reports or this information, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to Edmundo or myself. And with that, I will turn it back over to Edmundo.
Great, thank you. All right, I think we're a few minutes ahead of time. Let's just see if everybody is here, because I think we're ready for the presentation on labor investigations and deferred action. I see Lindsay. Lindsay's here. Is David here? All right. Why don't we? Okay.
I am here, but Moeller, our Assistant Attorney General in Wage Theft Unit, will be primarily presenting.
You're unmuted.
Okay. All right. Who? Let's see. Is Siv here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm here.
Okay, great. And Jonathan's here. Great. All right. And Liz is here. All right. Why don't we start with very brief introductions? David, why don't you go first?
Hello, my name is David Pegg. I'm an investigator with the Attorney General's office. I work in different areas, but also wage theft unit.
Great. Thank you. And Lindsay?
Hello, I'm Lindsay Greising. I'm a staff attorney at the Advocates for Human Rights, and I work on non-immigrant applications for status based on people being trafficked and also train and support volunteer attorneys.
All right, great. Thank you. Jonathan?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jonathan Moeller. I am an Assistant Attorney General in the Minnesota Attorney General Office's Wage Theft Unit. It's nice to be here.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Siv? Good to see you.
Hi, I'm Steve Dober-Folney. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. I'm a strategic compliance lead, and I'm here with my coworker, Liesl. Liesl, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Liesl Zamora. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry as well. I am a labor investigator.
All right, great. Wonderful. I think that's everyone. Did I miss anyone who's presenting? I don't think so. Okay.
Situl.
Are they here?
Yes, Cody.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, my
Oh,
name is Cody. I work at SATUL, Center for Workers United in Struggle. Our name is Centro de Trabajadores Unidos en Lucha. We call ourselves SATUL. It's CTUL in Spanish. My name is Cody. I'm the social services worker advocate there.
Thanks, Cody. Welcome. Okay, it's everybody. If it is, why don't we start with David? You want to, or Jonathan? Are you going to make the presentation? Are we going to start?
Oh, Lindsay was
Or David?
starting.
I think I am
Lindsay.
starting
Okay,
with
all
just
right,
some
all right.
background.
All right.
We're starting least important to most, maybe.
Okay.
Not
Not least important, but go ahead.
So I'm going to give like a very brief overview of the kind of immigration basis for deferred action, and how that applies to people who are able to maybe take advantage of this new process that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has issued. So, deferred action is something in our immigration system that is essentially a prosecutorial discretion function that the Department of Homeland Security can take in case management. So they can choose to not take action against folks who would otherwise be deportable or removable from the U.S. And deferred action allows Department of Homeland Security to also issue folks a work permit in addition to issuing protections against deportation and detention. DACA is probably the most famous deferred action, but DHS has been able to use deferred action in many other types of cases. So people who are victims of human trafficking have always been eligible for deferred action, in addition to being able to get something called continued presence, both of which are kind of interim immigration statuses. They don't provide any long-term permanent status or a path to citizenship. But they do provide the ability for a person to remain safely in the U.S. And the idea behind this is that those people then remain able to stay in the U.S. and be eligible to actively participate in a law enforcement investigation of trafficking. In February of this year, DHS recognized that people were reticent to participate in labor enforcement activities, often because of their immigration status or lack thereof, and fears that they would be deported or retaliated against if they reported their employer or labor violations or participated as a witness in an investigation. So in recognition of that, DHS issued a new policy which allows individuals to apply for deferred action as long as they are a witness or an impacted individual that worked at a company or an employer location during a specific time period relevant to an investigation. Important to remember that this does not come from a regulation or a statute. It's policy-based, and so this is currently the policy under the Biden administration to allow individuals to apply for this deferred action, but it could always change if there is a change in administration. The new deferred action policy is exciting because it creates a specialized lockbox facility where individual applications are submitted. So that means that people are able to get their applications processed pretty quickly. We have submitted our first round of these applications for a group of workers that we're representing. We got receipt notices within a couple of weeks of submission, and then those individuals were scheduled for biometrics appointments a few weeks later. And then those are still processing. We only submitted them a month ago, but news on the kind of nationwide network is that applications are being approved and people are getting employment authorization documents within several months. So compared to current like 2-year wait times for T visas or 5-year wait times for U visas, this months-long process is very exciting for people. It requires individuals to submit a specific application form, the 325A. If they have an attorney, that attorney will have to submit a form as well. And then they need to submit a form called this I-765 and an I-765 worksheet in order to get an employment authorization document submitted. The employment authorization document comes with a fee of $410, which people can request to have waived if they submit an additional form, or they can pay the fee. And in addition to kind of those forms, people will need to submit evidence showing that they worked at the location that's being investigated during the relevant period, and any additional evidence showing equities. So if they have a criminal history or certain issues like that, they definitely want to talk to an immigration lawyer to kind of help them through the process and understand the pros and cons of filing in those situations. Most importantly, the deferred action application requires a person to submit a statement of interest from the law enforcement agency that's investigating the case. And there's a specific process that each agency has. And so we're lucky to have 2 state agencies on to talk about their specific process. We've been able to get a letter from U.S. Department of Labor in one of our cases, and they have a 30-day wait period where you request the statement of interest, and then they'll get back to you within 30 days, and then that individual would be able to submit their application to U.S. Department of Homeland Security for deferred action. So I have 2 webs. I know I saw Edmundo put in one of the links to the website, but I'm going to put in 2 links where folks can get more information about the specific process. And we'll, I think in our presentation, go over kind of what is being done in Minnesota on these applications and where people can go for more information.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lindsay. Who's next?
Cody, did you want to go?
Cody, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to go. So SATOOL is a workers center here in Minneapolis. We work with workers throughout the Twin Cities to do some of this on the ground work that Lindsay's talking about around dealing with worksite violations. We organize workers, educate workers, and our organization is run in great part by workers. So the work that we've been doing around the deferred action policy has been really on the ground, trying to work directly in the community, providing resources, education to the workers, but also importantly, bringing the legal community in to create some infrastructure to meet these workers when they're in need of support around the deferred action process. So a lot of the work that I've been doing has been connecting with the legal community, trying to bring in some of the nonprofit legal services agencies to start working on these cases, because it is such a new policy. It's kind of a newer type of case for a lot of attorneys to handle. And we created a resource for workers that's essentially a 101 kind of, this is what deferred action is. These are the conditions that you might become eligible for it, with a short list of private attorneys that do take on deferred action cases. Looking into the future, we're trying to build some infrastructure locally to be able to support workers to get representation, specifically if it becomes something that is more common, because at this point we're not, at Statesville, we're not seeing a ton of workers coming in who are eligible for this, but expect that will change as time goes on. There's some models that other worker centers have used to coordinate legal clinics for larger groups of workers. Working also to see about bringing in law student folks as a potential clinic model in the future as well. So in terms of Statesville's role in kind of the deferred action world, we kind of as a first contact with a lot of workers around justice work, we're in a good position to be providing education and awareness within the worker community, but also are working to build a good holding for workers to be able to refer them to legal representation. We are also in a good position to be supporting the worker directly in requesting these SOIs from the agencies when the workers are involved in an active investigation. So that's the work that we've been focusing on around the deferred action piece in these past few months, and looking into the future, we'll just be continuing and deepening that along with the legal community and organizing community.
Thank you, Cody. DLI, are you guys next, or AG's office?
Jonathan, either way, I have a slide that kind of goes with what Cody was just saying, but I can present that later too.
If you have a slide that goes well with what Cody's talking about, I think why don't you go ahead, Sid?
And Michelle, am I going to be able, and Edmundo, am I going to be able to share my screen here, you think?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, you will.
Perfect. So, and this is, this is something I thought of. So I want to just make it clear that this doesn't necessarily apply to every labor agency. That I'm speaking from DLI's perspective here, Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. So, Cody just referred to an SOI, Statement of Interest letter. I want to explain a little bit about that. So when there's an active labor investigation, that's kind of the beginning point. The labor agency receives a request for a statement of interest letter. For example, Cody may request on behalf of workers a statement of interest letter. The labor agency writes and sends a statement of interest letter to the federal government for acceptance. So that's what our role is, sort of. We would receive a request, we would create a letter. If we have an active investigation, we would send it to the federal government. And then once the federal government accepts it, the labor agency gives the statement of interest letter to the requester, which in this hypothetical here would be Cody. So, and then once Cody gets that letter, hypothetically, she could work with somebody like Lindsay to do the actual deferred action case. And this is just hypothetical, I'm not trying to put work on Lindsay's plate, but just saying that that's the kind of the way it would work. And so I will stop sharing. Well, I'll stop sharing that for a second and speak specifically to what DLI is doing. Liesl, do you want to talk for a second about the statement of interest letter and our process?
Yeah, So we are still in the process of creating a procedure for requesting statement of interests from DLI. But in the meantime, while we're getting that set up, if there are situations where a statement of interest would be needed or wanting to be requested, you can email the 3 main supervisors, which we can put the emails in the chat.
I just threw it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. And send those requests in while we're getting our official procedure and policy set up. But we have just issued one letter now, or one statement of interest, and we are interested in continuing to do so and being we recognize that it's very important to for workers and for our investigations. It's mutually beneficial for them to have the ability to be able to participate in our investigations and feel comfortable in where they are. So we see this as a mutually beneficial procedure, and I believe we will have more information about how to request it exactly after we've kind of got that all in place. But for now, we have the temporary emails that can be sent.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Jonathan, you ready? You next?
Sure, David, did you have anything you wanted to start us off with?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, so like DLI, the Attorney General's Office has utilized the deferred action process already, and we've submitted a statement of interest for one of our active investigations. We had a statement of interest letter accepted yesterday, actually. So I thought it would be helpful to talk about, for the purposes of deferred action and statements of interest, what the Attorney General's Office will be considering investigations or enforcement actions where we can submit a statement of interest. And that would include active lawsuits. It would include active investigations where our office has issued a civil investigative demand either to an investigatory target or to a third party. It would include matters where a more informal enforcement letter has been sent to a target asking for information. It would include active investigations where we're conducting investigatory activities, but might still be in the fact-finding stage and not made contact with a target yet. But we also, our office receives a lot of constituent complaints, and not every complaint received by the office would be considered an investigation for the purposes of a statement of interest. So just broadly speaking, those are the situations where we would submit a statement of interest. And there are kind of 3 sets of circumstances where we would see submitting a statement of interest. The first is proactively, where we have reason to believe that submitting a statement of interest will benefit our investigation. And I would anticipate in that kind of situation, we would submit a statement of interest, and then we would start to engage with the legal community and grassroots organizations doing workers' rights type work to kind of organize a clinic to make workers aware of the statement of interest and connect them with legal resources. We do feel strongly that an important piece is going to be working collaboratively with community groups, just because not every worker who might be able to apply for deferred action is going to want to. Everyone has unique circumstances, and we can't provide legal advice to individual employees. So we feel like that's going to be a really important part. So the second circumstance is submitting a statement of interest reactively at the request of a worker or an advocate because the witness or the worker is in removal proceedings. And that's also a situation that we've come across, and we're able to obtain help the worker obtain deferred action. And then the third circumstance would be kind of at the request of a worker who might be communicating with us in investigation. They say, hey, I've heard about this deferred action policy. Can you submit a statement of interest? That would be a circumstance where we would submit a statement of interest as well. And just for the purposes of our office, so that's kind of how we've thought through the process. We're a little bit smaller or more streamlined than DLI because we have a small unit. So the contacts and the requests would likely go directly to whoever the worker is communicating with in the case, whether it be David or myself or another attorney. And we are hiring another waste theft investigator right now and 2 more attorneys. So we are growing. So that's good news. And I'm happy to answer any questions people might have about how to approach it.
Can I just clarify something? Jonathan's point about folks in removal proceedings. The new deferred action policy, people are eligible for deferred action under the new deferred action policy if they're in removal proceedings or if they have a prior removal order. But it is a separate application process that does not go to this special USCIS lockbox. So if you are aware that the person you're working with is already in proceedings or is detained or has a prior removal order, they should be applying through ICE instead of the USCIS lockbox. And I think in our training with attorneys, if there are attorneys on the call, making sure that you're screening folks, possibly doing a FOIA request to figure out kind of people's backgrounds. They're still eligible for this deferred action, but just making sure that they kind of understand what that looks like.
Yeah, and that was actually something that we went through when we spoke with DHS about the statement of interest, that they could be adjudicated, like depending on the circumstances of the worker, they might be adjudicated by USCIS or they could be adjudicated by ICE.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And any questions for any of our presenters today? If no further questions, I would just ask that each of you do put your email and contact information in the chat, just in case questions come up after presentation, so that people might be able to follow up with some questions. I know some of you have already put contacts for people in your departments, which is very helpful, but maybe if we have everybody's contact information, if a question regarding this presentation comes up, would be great. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Michelle?
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you all so much for coming together relatively quickly and providing such a thoughtful overview of this topic with a lot of great information for community. One point that I would suggest, or maybe this would be a topic for additional conversation or exploration, is if there are information sessions in community, orientation sessions that are broader. If we can share information on the Twin Cities Immigration Forum or through our other tools, we're happy to do so. Definitely having opportunities for people to come in, whether in person or virtually, and learn more about these procedures and ask questions would be really valuable for community members, because this may be a pathway that people will not encounter on their own. And especially as we're considering a population that may be a bit more vulnerable to exploitation. some of these, self-help, potential self-help pathways may not be so obvious to them. So thanks for the information that you've shared today. Thank you so much for sharing your contact information. If there are any last thoughts or questions that people have, just want to make sure that people have an opportunity to share those before we move on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to follow up on what you just said, Michelle, that our office is working on a short one-pager for public consumption related to deferred action that we will circulate to you all as soon as it's ready.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, I think if next, if there are no further questions for any of our presenters, we would go to some updates on driver's license FAQs. Immigrant Law Center continues to develop FAQs on driver's licenses for all, and currently they have FAQs in Somali, Spanish, and English, and we'll place links into the chat for those languages. They are developing additional FAQs in multiple languages, and we will continue to post those here at the forum in other of our places where we present as they are completed and publicized.
Yep. I just put the links into the chat for Immigrant Law Center. And actually, the Driver and Vehicle Services website has been updated to include information around driver's license for all engagement and outreach, including Saturday's Community Connections Conference. So that link is in the chat as well for the Driver and Vehicle Services Office and the ILCM frequently asked questions page in multiple languages.
All right. And also driver's license for all updates. There is a bi-weekly meeting on alternate Fridays addressing implementation efforts. Next meeting is this Friday, and it's convened by the Immigrant Law Center. And you can contact Immigrant Law Center if you're interested in joining those meetings. Michelle, do you want to say anything about further reading?
Yeah, so this is the extra credit component of the Twin Cities Immigration Forum, where if you're interested in learning more about specific topics, people are invited to read and watch and learn. There's one book that I'm reading right now that is fascinating, the history of nativism in the United States. It's called Strangers in the Land, and it's by John Hyam. Really fascinating read in case people are interested. Also, another read, the book Solito, and want to thank Kathleen at Alight for this suggestion. It's a book by Javier Zamora about his childhood experience traveling from, I believe, Guatemala to the United States on foot. We're very fortunate that Mr. Zamora came to Minnesota last month and was interviewed at the Hennepin County Library as part of the, I think, Marian Key reading series. And there is a recording of that conversation, which I'm putting into the chat as well. It was amazing and fascinating. So if you have a free moment and need something to do and want to pull these links from the chat, feel free to do so, and happy to discuss online or offline if you'd like. I'll turn it back to you, Edmundo.
Great. Well, thanks, Michelle. I think if there are no further questions or any further announcements that people would like to make about events, upcoming events, I think we can close a little early today. Our next Twin Cities Immigration Forum is going to be on Thursday, July 6th from 4:30 to 6. Again, please, you're always free to contact us with ideas or topics and agenda items to address. I see you, Rodolfo. You have your hand raised. Good afternoon, Rodolfo.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks so much.
Doing great. Sure.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for the information. It was really useful. It's going to be really useful for everyone. And second, I just wanted to say that we are still conducting a couple of research, a new one, related to immigration, and one of them is focusing on, as I already presented here before, on women who are owners on non-registered businesses, and they are mostly of them immigrants. And we want to collect information, and we are recruiting participants from the Twin Cities and southern Minnesota. So please, if you know someone, refer them to us. I already put my contact information, and I want to send you, Michelle and Edmundo, the flyer information for you to distribute among the group. And we are starting a new research in collaboration with COPAL, that it is related to the use and non-use of ITIN numbers for undocumented immigrants who might be benefited in accessing to rental and perhaps opening bank accounts and all that. So please keep that in mind, because I think that is a good opportunity for people that now we are going to have the license for everyone. So to expand also and using the IT numbers for them to better be in the area. And we are going to be working on the southern part of Minnesota as well as a pilot program. But I want also ask for the support from you guys and recruiting participants. So that is, as a researcher, the research part that I guess is going to document better policies in the future. So that's all what I want to say. Thank you, and
Wonderful.
Thank you.
have a great evening.
Thank you. Rodolfo, are both studies ongoing, or are they?
They are
What
both
stages?
ongoing. Yeah,
Okay.
the first one is already in data collection. We've been doing some focus groups, and it's been fascinating, and we are recruiting more participants for that. And the second one is in the initial stages. We are going to establish pretty much the methodology. No, the methodology is already there, the recruitment part in the following weeks. So I'm going to be posting you, keeping you posted, and sending you the information. But also I wanted just to open that to the people who's here, because you are the important people working with immigrants, and we need that information for these projects.
Okay. Rodolfo, thank you so much. We also did get a question in the chat. If you could post your email again in the chat, someone's asking for it. Your
Certainly.
email address.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Rodolfo?
One more is that we are going to be participating in testing some kits of information for access to services such as healthcare for immigrants in Minnesota. This is a new study as well. I have not much information. I suppose some of you are going to be part of this because it's coming out from the Minnesota Department of Health and a couple of agencies. So we are going to be participating on it, and I'm also going to be sending you the information as well. This is a very short pilot program, but the idea is to tell people what it is for them available regardless their immigrant status. So and that many of them don't know about it. So it's another big project that is upcoming, but it's pretty soon, and I'm going to be let you know as well.
Wait,
Thank you.
fantastic. You got one more question. Where can we guide clients to connect with Rodolfo for the purposes of the ITIN numbers?
To this address. So Rodrigo is our research associate, and he is leading this project in the side of ASER. So whomever wants any questions or answered, and any contact information, please contact directly Rodrigo. Thank you, Anna.
Great. All right. If no further questions or any further community updates, we'll give you back 27 minutes. And our next Twin Cities Forum, Immigration Forum, will be on Thursday, July 6th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. As always, please feel free to contact Michelle or I with topics or agenda items. Oh, Samba, you have a question, comment?
Yes, Edmundo, and thank you so much for recognizing me.
Sure.
I wanted to share that I also am the Hennepin County Race Equity Advisory Council. That's a pretty heavy title that definitely I have no idea about what I'm doing, and will beg for anybody with expertise, ideas that can help me bring that voice of the voiceless into the Hennepin Council. It would be much helpful for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Samba. Okay, well, anyone else would like to make a presentation or a quick statement or bring up a community update?
I do.
I see Florence. Go ahead, Florence. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. What a great update that we've heard from DHS. So important for our immigrant community. I just want to let you guys know I've been doing this for quite a while, but this year I have the capacity to start helping a lot of immigrant businesses that really wanted to start a business and they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. This has been a passion of mine and the organization that I belong to. So we're starting to begin to enroll people like a 6-month program and train them. And so if you have a business idea, we just train you up to six months, and then we teach you how to do a simple business plan, and then talk about the finances, talk about everything leading up to the point of you opening up that business. So it takes time to really think about it and go through the process. So we don't want people to do a quick fix and then after a while they said it's too difficult. So we want to walk you through the process, and it's done through Field of Dreams Empowerment Center, and we are taking people online. So if you can go to our website, fieldofdreams.org, and you can register and let us know. And then we're putting the class together to start. So that's an update. And then the second update I have, I think it's so far away, I can wait. It's September 23rd. We are having this Minnesota African Cultural Festival that brings in all the immigrants. So it's not just for African, but it just happened to be the fact that African likes festivities. I think everybody else in the immigrant community like festivities, but this is the African cultural festival that will bring in a lot of people together, friends of Africa, immigrants from every part of Minnesota. So I will send out a flyer later on, but it's too early now. It's September 23rd, but I just wanted to give a heads up on that. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence, for that wonderful information. Maybe you can post the information about the first announcement you made.
Yes.
And maybe your contact information, because I think people have been asking in the chat for you to please post the information in the chat.
I would do that. Yes.
So they know how to contact you and follow up on questions they may have.
Yes, absolutely. Let me go.
Okay. Very good. Who's still?
Who's still? Yep.
Are you
Hi,
there?
everybody. Good afternoon. Great to be here with you all. No, I just want to kind of highlight something. I mean, lately here in Minneapolis, and I don't know how it's in St. Paul, we have a search and for folk to actually kind of go to the street. And this is a practice that is very common in countries like us, Central South America. And so to distribute and sell food on the street, but this is getting a little bit more crazy in the sense that now that the kids are out of school, we are seeing them and their children, and that actually bring an additional element of concern, because the kids actually are in those they do and those are the high traffic areas, and so it becomes a little situation hazardous for the kids. And of course, I mean, the thing is, we understand this is part of people really trying to survive, to, you know, be able to work and so on. But I just think it should be, we should be able to help. All what I mostly done is, when I have the opportunity to see folks, is number one, tell them not to do it, and second, handle my business card and see how we can help them to do it in a way that is allowed through the city. And then the second is like the element of, you know, putting the child in danger, because it becomes a different concern. So, and I don't know how we can like do a campaign on it and trying to help folks with this. I have brought it to these forums so for a while too. I love what this you know, administration have done so far for, you know, in terms of immigration. There is some help in terms of some policies who have probably helped some folks get, you know, work permits. But I think more has to be done, and I just don't know where we can start putting a little bit more pressures in their administrations to actually do something about folks that are here, and for them to be able to work and do something.
Thank you, Justo. Justo, do you, if people see sees people in the street and children in the street, is there somewhere they can contact, someone they can contact at the city to kind of provide some assistance to these folks?
They can do 311, and then what 311 will do is probably likely would end up with us. It is food, things related to food, and in Minneapolis, chances are related to us. But what I really want is folks probably not getting in trouble, because there is an element there in sense of, you know, with the child endangerment and a lot of stuff. So it's, 311, and then, like I said, we see them, we approach them, and we talk to them. But it's being a kind of widespread now. So.
Yep. And Justo, you know, and for everyone too, I think that finding activities for children in the summertime is something that occupies many of our minds as parents. And so brainstorming about what activities exist. I know that I have seen a list of activities over the summer that can certainly be a subject of conversation and collaboration offline as well. And also maybe something we can bring to a future forum as summer is upon us. I know that that activities for youth is a very time-sensitive subject. So I'm glad that you've brought it up. Thank you also for bringing up the idea of advocacy around ensuring that people have access to immigration status, including a work authorization document. And your question is very well taken. What more can we do? Being informed around bills that are currently pending at the federal legislature. I know that there is one that some information has been disseminated around recently. I believe it's called the Dignity Act. Is one thing that we can do, be well informed and identify ways to advocate. So thank you for those comments and suggestions. And are there any additional comments or things people would like to address before we wrap for today? Samba, I see your hand is still up. Je ne sais pas si that was from, I don't know if that was from the last time or if there was an additional point that you wanted to make or share. There we go. Okay. Well, if there's nothing further, then thank you so much for spending an hour and 43 minutes with us today here. Again, this recording will be available shortly on the OIRA website. We'll also send it out to you as a link as soon as it's ready to go. Please do join us. Edmundo and I will both be at the Community Connections Conference this Saturday doing the Citizenship and Immigration Fair, where there will be legal service providers available and a wealth of other activities at the Community Connections Conference this Saturday. the Twin Cities Immigration Forum on Sunday, or hope to reach out or connect with you in some other way before our next meeting, which again is Thursday, July 6th. Thank you so much, and happy Immigrant Heritage Month, World Refugee Day, June 20th, Pride, Juneteenth, and Caribbean American Heritage Month. That is a mouthful, and hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night and a good rest of June. Take care.
Thank you. Take good care.
Bye-bye.